Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey. The asset store is full of awesome tools and assets to help you make your own games. There's more and more awesome stuff coming out every month, so in this video let's check out some highlights for December 23. This one is a list of paid systems and tools. In the last video I already covered the best free new assets, and next one I'll cover top visuals and effects. As always, there's links to the assets in the description, and as a bonus you can use the coupon CodeMonkey10 to get 10% off your order. By the way, my own game is currently discounted as part of the Steam holiday sale, so if you wanted to try it out, then now's your chance. And speaking of assets, previously I talked about all the assets that I used to make the game, and right now Unity is having their New Year sale, and if you want you can pick up a bunch of these on discount. You can go look at my character customization system and pick up the characters asset. This is the one that I use in the game and the one that I use in that system. The Quantum Console is super useful for helping you debug and do tons of things. Then this asset adds some really nice effects that make everything look gorgeous. I use UMotion Pro to make a bunch of custom animations directly inside Unity. This nice animation pack that I use so many times. And the equivalent shader. This is the main shader that I use to make the game look really nice, really anime-like. Then feel is obviously excellent. Text Animator is one of the best ways to add that extra bit of polish to your games. And for the Cinti assets, they're actually all also on sale on the Cinti store. So if you like their low poly sound, definitely give it a look. Check out all the links in the description. Alright, so starting off with a really interesting tool for easily manipulating your objects. Sometimes when rotating something, it can get quite tricky because it always rotates around the pivot, which usually is in the center. With this tool, you can set a custom pivot, like for example on an edge, on a vertex, and then you can rotate or scale directly from that point. This is a tiny thing, but it's something that is really helpful if you need it. Like for example, if you have a tree and for some reason the bottom pivot is in the middle of the trunk, with this you can easily place it on the bottom to scale and rotate it. Or for example, if you have some kind of chest and you want to open it exactly where the hinge would be, if so, you can easily snap the pivot to a vertex and move it anywhere. Importantly is this does not actually modify the original pivot. It is still wherever it was originally. This basically does a bunch of complex math in the background to make it seem like the pivot changed without actually changing it. Really useful, really tiny tool. Then one problem that I'm sure you've encountered is missing scripts. Here's a tool to help with that. If you move or rename or delete a script, any game object that had that script attached as a component will just say missing script. It's really not very helpful how it doesn't actually say what script it was, so you can end up with tons of missing scripts and no idea exactly what is missing. This is a very simple tool that helps solve exactly that. It tells you the name of the script and where it was the last time it was seen. From what I understand, this tool basically creates a tracker, so if you import it onto a project that has missing scripts, it won't be able to help. It needs to be there from the start, but it also seems to integrate well with Git, so if you have source control, it may work great. Either way, this is an excellent, tiny, potentially very useful tool. Next, here's a topic that I've wanted to research for quite some time. It's a tool for exporting from Unreal into Unity. Now, there are lots of Humble bundles all the time, and some of them have some gorgeous Unreal assets, and assets are really just assets, so there's really no reason why they would be fixed to a particular engine. You can grab Unreal assets and take them to Unity or vice versa. But while the meshes and textures, those are just regular universal files, from what I understand, the materials do require some manual work to convert. That's the topic that I'd like to research, but if you just want a one-click tool, then this one seems perfect. You'll load this plugin into a simple Unreal project, then load some assets into Unreal, then you can simply press a button and this will create a Unity project with all those assets and all the materials and all the shaders all correctly loaded. Very useful if there are some Unreal assets you'd like to try. I definitely need to try this out. Next, for something to help you with some gameplay, here's a tool for helping you drag, slide, and rotate. This is perfect for helping you quickly make all kinds of adventure games. Those usually involve lots of tiny interactions. It lets you make any object interactable with a variety of interactions. You can set up a key to rotate with an angle limit that automatically opens the door. You can set up the door to be pullable from one side until a limit. You can play with gears, you can open some drawers, push, pull, turn, drag, drop, and really just about any interaction you can think of. Adventure and horror games are usually pretty much about all of these kinds of interactions. So if you'd like to make a game like those, a system like this can really massively speed up that kind of development. Then here's an interesting code-based tool called the binding system. This one lets you take any fields you have and basically link them to some value. For example, you can have a car with an engine script, and you can have a custom script that listens to player input and then set some float with some speed amount. Normally, you would then, from that script, call some kind of function on the engine and set the value. However, with this tool, you can kind of do the reverse. You can mark the car engine parameter as bindable, and then bind it from the other custom player script to that function. So basically, it is a reverse. Instead of having your custom input tell the engine how to move, instead of that, the engine grabs a value from whatever is bound to that variable. This can be really helpful to make your games much more designer-focused, since you can link lots of custom logic very easily directly in the editor without having to touch any code. You can bind to literally anything, not just custom functions. It can be any exposed property or any script, including all of the built-in components. Like for example, a standard UI slider. You can make the engine script bound to the slider value, no code required, super easy. This is definitely a very unique, very interesting tool, especially for the kind of person who likes to connect all your logic in the editor instead of through code. Next, if you'd like to make a game kind of like Gang Beasts, here's a great complete template. Importantly, this is an online-enabled template. That's what makes this one really stand out. When working with physics, making it online is always really tricky, so that really is the important feature of this template. This one is built using mirror networking. The characters are all very wobbly and perfectly synchronized in multiplayer. You can attack your opponents, you can grab them and throw objects, all with lots of tiny physics, all perfectly synchronized. So this one basically has all the features you expect from these kinds of games, so if you'd like to build one, then this would be a great starting point. Then, if you're a fan of the Blender ability to subdivide meshes and you'd like to do that directly inside Unity, if so, here's a great tool. It does exactly that. You basically take a mesh, any mesh, and it automatically subdivides that mesh to make it a lot more rounded, a lot more smooth. Since nowadays a lot of games are using a low poly style, perhaps applying this tool to some low poly assets can make it unique enough to stand out. Surprisingly, this appears to work well on regular meshes as well as also on skin meshes, so you could definitely also apply this to a bunch of characters. Naturally, there are potential concerns with regards to the max number of polygons, but if your scenes aren't too huge, then this could work and could make your game look quite a bit more interesting, quite a bit more unique. Or maybe you need something to help you generate the world. If so, look at this one. This uses a lot of procedural generation to help you generate huge worlds. It also matches different parts together as tiles. It looks really easy to use, just a handful of parameters and you already have a really nice looking world. Or you can dive deep and modify every single thing to get exactly the world that you want. You can generate mountains, rivers, seas, islands, and really anything. Then if you'd like to record a gameplay session, check out this tool. Importantly, this is not a video tool. It does not record video. Instead, it requires inputs, actions, and positions. This way you can easily scrub through the timeline back and forth. This is excellent whenever you encounter some kind of bug and you need to reproduce it. If you did record the inputs that led to the bug, that can make it really helpful. In order to record, you really just add a recordable component, then select all the various fields that you'd like to record. You can record properties or fields or even events. And then that data is saved onto a regular CSV file, which you can then play back during gameplay. Next, if you've seen those TVs that take the color of whatever's on screen and apply it to some LEDs in the back, if so, then this tool does pretty much that. You can select a position in the world and it will constantly sample that color. Then you can use that color for whatever you want, like for example tinting the UI or some text. It looks really easy to use, just attach the component to whatever transform exists in the world, then just play around with all the various parameters. You can clamp the color, you can modify the saturation, and a bunch more things that honestly I'm really not too familiar with because I don't know much about color theory, but you do have quite a lot of control over exactly how the color is sampled. This one is certainly a very unique thing, but something that might help your game feel a bit more dynamic. For example, you can add some clamping and make it a very subtle effect, make your UI subtly darker when inside a dungeon and then slightly lighter when outside. Alright, so those are my top 10 new tools and systems on the Unity Asset Store for December 23. There's links to all in the description, and as a bonus you can use the coupon code Monkey10 to get 10% off your order. Oh, and don't forget to pick up my game on the holiday sale. I really hope you like it, and please write a review. Alright, hope that's useful. Check out these videos to learn some more. Thanks to these awesome Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.